Right now, there are quiet, high-level negotiations behind closed doors taking place in Washington ahead of the next big budget deadline on January 15th. And while the fiscal scolds are again calling for cuts to so-called entitlement programs, a rising group of Democrats has been coalescing around an idea that, at least by Washington standards, may well be revolutionary.
We must reform our largest entitlement programs.
We must have fundamental entitlement reform.
Everyone from the president on down has said that entitlements must be reformed.
We must reform Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Entitlement reform. It's Washington's favorite phrase. Anytime there's a budget to be balanced, conservatives and even some Democrats look to social insurance programs to start cutting, with Social Security first on the chopping block.
I think the Democrats are being grossly irresponsible by not stepping forward to save Social Security.
But the reality is that the Congressional Budget Office projects Social Security is funded through 2031. There's even an easy way to keep it solvent long after that. Right now, no one's paying Social Security taxes on annual income after $114,000. Just get rid of that cap, and suddenly, Social Security is fully funded for generations.
By itself, scrapping the cap could address 100% of the Social Security projected shortfall, which is modest, and also leave a little left over to pay benefits.
The real crisis facing the country is not funding Social Security, but ensuring retirement security. After decades of stagnant wages, 3 in 4 Americans nearing retirement age in 2010 had less than $30,000 in their retirement accounts. Those people are the test subjects in America's 3-decade experiment in funding retirement privately. We were all told, out with the pensions and in with the 401ks. And it's increasingly clear that experiment is failing.
401k plans really place the burden on the individual participant to have an adequate retirement. And the vast majority of ordinary people don't know how to do that. It's a very complex task.
Many Americans over the age of 65 are struggling to make ends meet, even with Social Security benefits.
Gloria Hobbs says without her Social Security check, she'd be homeless for sure. And even with that money, Hobbs still struggles.
Sometimes what I do is fill half of the prescription and, and take a half a pill, which is not good.
The crisis has prompted a group of lawmakers to push an idea that, to the deficit scolds, sounds like heresy. What if, instead of cutting Social Security, we expanded it?
Right now, more people than ever are on the edge of financial disaster once they retire.
Senator Elizabeth Warren is among a growing chorus on Capitol Hill calling for an increase in benefits for seniors. One proposal would increase Social Security benefits by an average of $70 per month. And that money is likely to go right back into the economy where it is so desperately needed. Social Security is so successful and so popular that people who want to kill it have to call their ideas reform. And the initial impetus for Social Security was to keep seniors from falling into poverty. Now, remarkably, we are facing a similar challenge once again.
We have a member of the Senate and a member of the U.S. House, both of whom want to expand Social Security. We're going to talk to them about why we need to do it and how we can get it done. Coming up, stick around. Joining me now, Senator Sherrod Brown, Democrat from Ohio, member of the Senate Finance Committee, where he serves as the chair of the Subcommittee on Social Security, and Congressman Jim McDermott, Democrat from Washington State, member of House Ways and Means Committee, which also deals with Social Security. Senator, I'll begin with you because you have co-signed, you're one of a few co-sponsors of a bill that Tom Harkins introduced that would raise Social Security benefits. How does this work?
Well, it works the way that it should work. The debate, frankly, has been all about the discussion of how do we reform entitlements and how do we save Social Security. But when I hear conservative politicians in this town say reform entitlements, restructure, they're not sustainable, or when they say we need to fix Social Security or save Social Security. They're always talking about making cuts in Social Security. And the debate should not be about how much we're going to cut Social Security. The debate should be about retirement security. And your graph you had that so few people have much savings, fewer people have defined pension benefits. That's why it's so important that Social Security, that the cost of living adjustment really reflects an older person, a retiree's costs of living itself, and why it's so important that we do a little bit more and give them a little bump up. One more point, that Social Security now, in about a third of Americans on Social Security rely on Social Security for essentially their entire income.
Yep.
So it's not like they're getting rich from this. It's $1,200, $1,300 a month typically.
Congressman, do you feel as if the senator is correct when he says the terms of the debate have been dragged further and further to the right about how big the cuts are that you're in favor of?
Absolutely. You are looking at a Congress that refuses to face the fact that the pension system in this country is being eroded very rapidly. You saw governors all over the country attacking public employees' pensions. You've seen companies go into bankruptcy.
Yep.
I fly back and forth on United, and I've flown almost 4 million miles, and all the flight attendants who are over 40 years old are talking about the fact that they will have to work until they're 70 or 75 years old because their pension system was lost in the 2 bankruptcies that United Airlines has gone through. That's exactly the issue that's going on in Seattle today, where the Boeing company is going after the machinists, trying to get them to move from a defined benefit program
That's right.
to a 401k program. They're going right at the security of those workers in Seattle, and that's happening all through the workforce in this country. Social Security is the only thing that Enron people had. When Enron went to the ground, they still had Social Security. And that's really true for an awful lot of people in this country. And we ought to be thinking about how we can strengthen the program and make it stronger, not talking about change CPI and reducing it and doing all those sorts of things. We ought to scrap the cap. I couldn't find my button this morning, or I'd have a scrap the cap button on my coat here, because that's really what we ought to do.
I want to talk about how you pay for it, scrapping the cap, but the point you made just there, I just want to take a second because it is so important. We have run this major experiment in American social policy in which we have basically seen the erosion of defined benefit pensions. About a third of workers had them a generation ago. It's half of that now. You're looking at about 12 to 15% of workers that have defined benefit pensions. We've asked people to save money and put them in 401ks. At the same time, wages have stagnated, savings have gone down. It's been basically impossible to assemble enough wealth to live out in retirement with a good standard of living. And if you have the misfortune of retiring on the eve of a financial crisis, well, then you're out of luck. So all of that's come together at the same time that all of that is used as an argument to cut Social Security, perversely, Senator Brown. And the reason it is because we can't afford it. How are you and Senator Harkin and others going to pay for the modest benefit increase that you're advocating now?
Well, somebody making $50,000 or $100,000 a year pays a higher percentage of her income into Social Security than somebody making $500,000 or $1 million a year, and we're simply saying that everybody should pay the same percentage of their income into Social Security. That will strengthen Social Security, not strengthen it by cutting it the way that Ted Cruz just said on your show earlier on the video, but will strengthen it because it will have more revenue. And as you said, that money, the woman that you interviewed from Youngstown, if she gets a $70 a month increase, that money goes right into the economy in Youngstown, maybe to the local car mechanic, maybe to the grocery store, to the hardware store, painting her house, whatever she needs to do. That money stays locally. That builds an economy, and it saves her life. It gives her an opportunity to live her older years with a little higher standard of living.
Congressman, quickly, is there any possibility of any Republicans on your side of Capitol Hill in the House going along with something like this?
I think it's going to take a movement from the people, and the people have got to start sending in messages to their congressmen and saying, we want you to not cut Social Security, but increase it. And I think the scrap the cap is a good slogan for them to use. I think they're going to begin to find that more and more people are going to be pressing their congressmen about this. That's the only way it will happen.
Yep.
In the state of Washington, we just raised in a little town the minimum wage to $15.
That's right.
It was done by the people.
Senator Sherrod Brown, Congressman Jim McDermott, thank you, gentlemen, for your time. That is all on for this evening. The Rachel Maddow Show starts now. Good evening, Rachel.